Honkai Star Rail has no stakes. Honkai No Stakes Rail, as it is commonly called, is an allegation that I will be fighting today. I spend a lot of my time on this channel denigrating the Lord Ravagers. In the past, I have called them useless, having dumb weaknesses, and even saying that they are not nearly as threatening as we are led to believe. But in today's video, it is my goal to do the opposite, because in truth I do believe that in the future an Aeon will fall, triggering a chain of events that leaves an irreparable scar on the entirety of the cosmos and a true display of destruction, showing us that this is what Nanook wishes to do with the rest of the cosmos. Yes, I do believe that the destruction, despite losing 3 Lord Ravagers so far, will claim a victory, and it is over none other than the path of the hunt, with that path ceasing to be, utterly vanishing from the cosmos itself, meaning that Phantalia will be the first ever victorious Lord Ravager, but not for the reasons you would think, because Hunt is the most vulnerable path at present, and the foreshadowing that Hoyo has been drip feeding us over the course of the entire story is something that needs to be brought to the forefront, especially before Hoyo does, so that I can say that I predicted it. Because this is the fall of the Rainbow's path explained. Okay, so this is something that I think can be turned into a series because of how Aeon Ascensions Explained is nearing its finale, and we need a new series to start up. So why not go with what would happen if an Aeon fell? The direct opposite, starting with the one that I think will truly fall. Lan the Hunt. And their fall will be spectacular, because the fall of the Rainbow Arbiter will trigger the implosion of the entire path of the Hunt, and I will explain to you exactly why. You see, Hunt is a path walking a fine line. It is a path, according to Welt Yang, that is already narrow as it is, and the followers of said path consistently pray to the Aeon of Friendly Fire not to fire.
I prayed to the god of the skyboat that I would never have to witness one of these shooting stars fall again.
Or in Asheville's case, look at us, but don't look at us.
Skybow, gaze upon this broken-legged wolf.
Oh, Skybow, please, do not cast your gaze here.
Bro has his Aeon confused. But in all seriousness, this is unique for an Aeon Pathstrider relationship, because if we were to look at any other path, like say Preservation for example, despite how the IPC is contributing more to the destruction than Preservation, they still work tirelessly just to be acknowledged by Qlipoth for once, because not a single time have they so much as looked at the wall building supplies the IPC has gathered for them. Entire planets full of bricks and just junk, and Qlipoth pays them no mind. But my point here isn't to slander the IPC, of course, not today. My point is that the factions that follow an Aeon want their Aeon all the time. Even the Garden of Recollection works tirelessly collecting memories for Fu Li, and the Harmony followers want to be as in sync with Xipe as possible. But then there's the Hunt followers that hunt for the sole purpose of preventing their Aeon's intervention. Sure, according to what the Shanjo wants, they want to eliminate the abundance, but they know for a fact that each and every time Lan fires an arrow, just as much harm will be done as good. Which brings me to something Yao Guang said earlier. What keeps Hunt from destruction is temperance.
If the value of discipline was understood, the creations of the abundance need not be abominations. And without temperance, the consequences of the hunt are no different from destruction.
But we know for a fact that Lan does not have this temperance in the slightest. The only temperance Lan has is giving the Arbiter Generals portions of their power to do their job on a smaller scale. So the only way that I can see Lan having temperance is through who they give their power to, because the Aeon themselves has no sense of this at all, which is dangerous, because when you think of what Lux arrows are, they are gravity-propelled stars fired into the cosmos that literally pierce through everything in their way to the target. And Lan fires from light years away, so it's just a straight line of just erasure on its way to whatever abundance thing Lan fired at. So you can easily see how close Hunt is to destruction. Hunt is just destruction in a straight line, which again is dangerous for Lon because one of the 3 ways an Aeon falls is being assimilated into another Aeon. And Nanook, without a shadow of a doubt, has an eye on the Aeon of Friendly Fire and has Phantylia working to assassinate them. And what is interesting about this is that our low-tier Lord Ravager here, while not having the raw power of Zephyro or the backing Iron Tomb had with a genius on its side, she has 2 surefire ways to kill Lon. And the first is by killing every Arbiter General, and the second is by finding a way to twist the concept of the hunt into destruction. Simply put, if the Arbiter Generals are what is keeping Lon in check, if you remove them, or enough of them, according to Yao Guang, Lon will just slip into destruction on their own, and Nanook is definitely winning that power struggle. And the second is spreading so much abundance that Lon will have to keep firing at, to the point of where Lon doesn't need to hunt anymore. The universe will just be teeming with massive growths of abundance, and Lon will have to keep firing with reckless abandon regardless of what the generals do. They will get overrun, and the concept of hunt turns into destruction, because that straight line will just turn into like an AoE of just Lon just firing out volleys everywhere. And thus hunt turns into destruction. Lon gets assimilated by Nanook. If Lon is hunting to keep abundance at bay, once they get overrun, it's time for purging, and that is Nanook's domain. That is simply how close hunt is to destruction as a concept. So in the grand scheme of things, Phantylia's job isn't all that difficult due to how vulnerable hunt is. Paths like Nihility and Permanence require much more work than that to get rid of them, because Permanence followers are just hatched into existence, and Nihility is like a pathogen of infectious depression and apathy. Those two are a much more complicated case, especially because Permanence is not only in Honkai Star Rail, it's also in other games, but that's besides the point. Permanence is weird. Moving on to my next point, looking at this from an in-game perspective, our Trailblazer is going through the story getting access to different paths' powers, and these powers are ones that we canonically get access to and can swap between at will. And if the, say, Path of Elation got destroyed by Asat Pramod, we wouldn't have our glow sticks anymore. That power would be gone, and the gameplay would no longer be lore accurate. And we know how much Hoyo loves their gameplay lore accuracy and attention to detail, and I don't know if you noticed this or not, but the Xianzhou is the only place we have ever gone to that we didn't get a path from. We at no point unlocked the path of the hunt. And if we never do, it might be because the path will fall in the future, and Hoyo isn't gonna just give us a new playstyle just to take it away later. Admittedly, this isn't one of my strongest points, but it is something to keep in mind and has me currently side-eyeing the Xianzhou. And speaking of the No Accountability Alliance, it's ironic to say, but in order for the path of the hunt to cease to be, they either have to be exterminated or swap paths as a faction, and the latter looks far more likely. Why? Well, because they are the single most disloyal faction in the entire game. They follow the Abundance, then the Preservation with Erudition on the side, and now they follow the Hunt. And the only reason why they follow this path is because the Aeon rose from them. They are Lon in a sense. But if the Rainbow Arbiter falls, there is nothing stopping the Xianzhou from just returning to one of the other 3 paths they followed, because they still hold the Firmament Arbiter, or Klapoth, in high regard. Arbiter being their highest honorific for an Aeon, by the way. And of course, the Luofu and Yuque still use new style calculations for the Matrix of Prescience and the Decolite Reflection Barrier, respectively. And despite how close Lon is to mortals and how much attention they pay to their people, it's not exactly reciprocated, and they see their Aeon as a force that does as much harm as good. But Lux arrows do serve as a really good big red nuke button, so they will make do. But of course, if Lon were to fall, the Amber Lord's hammer makes a very nice alternative. So the response would be, oh no. Anyway, yeah, the Xianzhou's goal of killing Abundance predates Lon, and odds are it will continue after them. But even though if the Xianzhou abandons the hunt, that is not enough to make the path disappear entirely. That requires what we can only assume to be every single Pathstrider of that path perishing, or they just decide to all turn away, like what nearly happened to the Trailblaze, because this was already an example of a path nearly dying due to a lack of people believing in it, with Icy being the one man that held the fort down to make sure it survived. And with the case of the Rainbow, we still have the Galaxy Rangers, except they will turn away too, and we know they will, because Galaxy Rangers do not follow the Hunt in the same way the Shinjo does, nor do they have the same allegiance to Lon. They follow the Hunt out of their sense of justice, which is just vengeance masked as justice, because every Galaxy Ranger has their own reason for hunting, and unlike Lon and the Shinjo, it's not the abundance. A Galaxy Ranger's hunt can end, and when it does, they retire. For example, Boot Hill is after Oswaldo Schneider, Rappa wants to take down Dr. Primitive, and we know that Ashvale was after Zulo, and he won. His hunt ended with Zulo's demise, and he left the Rangers. This faction really has no direct line to hating abundance, and the only reason why Ashvale did is because he worked extensively with the Shanjo in the past, and that's the reason why Yao Guang has been looking for him. She wants to rekindle that bond between the fellow Hunt followers, and that's why this interaction was so significant. But that's besides the point, because if Lon falls, so does justice. And if some of the Rangers rose up to hunt in vengeance for Lon's assassination, the success or failure of this would be the last hunt. Galaxy Rangers are not tied down to the Hunt as much as you would think they are. Because in the Myriad Celestia, when Silverwolf was on her rampage taking over the cosmos and crushing the IPC, it is said that she united the Rangers and the Hackers and brought the Tavern under her banner.
She united the Rangers and Hackers and brought the Tavern under her banner.
Meaning that the Galaxy Rangers joined the Elation. They left the Hunt. So in reality, all they need is a being that is strong and stands for a sense of justice that they can get behind, and they will follow suit. Truth be told, the Shanjo and the Galaxy Rangers are following the Hunt for very selfish reasons, and Lon themselves ascended out of a personal beef. Very much like a Lord Ravager. This Aeon is a Lord Ravager. So it is only fitting that that is the entire path's downfall. The only thing keeping this path intact is Lon's existence and the absolute ludicrous power they possess. Again, other paths can exist without an Aeon. Beauty followers are still tirelessly looking for a Drilla. Vidyadhara are now Hunt followers, but still, just like Danheng Chance, this is permanence. They have not left long behind despite their disappearance, and we know well enough already that Trailblazers continue onwards even after Akavili's fall. But Hunt is different. If Lon themselves has nothing to offer, their followers will simply go elsewhere for the power they desire. Hunt is not an ideology, it's treated more like a power source. And if that power source runs out or disappears, the entire path implodes. The Rangers and the Alliance are the only two factions that follow this path, making Fantilia's job that much easier. She is not even close to the strongest Lord Ravager, do not get me wrong, but her job is the easiest. She has been tasked with killing the path that is only hanging on by a thread and is already bordering on destruction. Her weakness may be wanting to take down Lon and the Shanjo together at the same time, but in reality, if she wants to do the job that Nanook has set for her, she can win. She is currently the closest Lord Ravager to actually succeeding in her goal and actually getting a W for the destruction. It's ironic, but none of the Ravagers have been able to kill an Aeon, let alone a path so far as we know. But if we are looking at which one is on the chopping block and which one would work for how the story is developing, Hunt would be the one that falls. Because this is the fall of the Rainbow's path explained. Let me know if this could be a series, because I really enjoyed writing this script. Looking into the possibilities of how a path could fall and trying to figure out how it would work in the narrative of the story is something I really think is fun and worth talking about. I've been sitting on this idea for a month or two and finally found a good time to get my ideas out. To be honest, this all started with this Aeon is a Lord Ravager video, and if I'm being honest, I never left that mindset. But of course, Lon is an Aeon, and calling them a Lord Ravager is a joke reference to how they ascended as a hater of the Path of Abundance, just like Lord Ravagers do. Also, I would really love if the destruction actually took a W. I want want to see what would happen if a path fell and what that would look like. It would also shut up the Honkai No Stakes rail crowd, which would be hilarious to rub in their collective faces. But the next best thing to Lon actually becoming a Lord Ravager would be them actually being assimilated into Nanook, because that is something Aeons do. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.